Hey, good morning. This is Jamie with Stonemeyer Games, and I'm happy to be live here on Wednesday, October 6th, which is a big day for us for a couple different reasons. One, today is the pre-order launch for our game Rolling Realms, which is now in all of our fulfillment centers. So if you're a Stonemeyer champion, you should start getting your shipping notices next week. And if you're not a Stonemeyer champion, that's okay too. You can still pre-order it from our web store, and you should get a shipping notice the week after that. So mid-October for everyone for Rolling Realms delivery. It's a game that we already have in stock, and I'm so excited about it. I actually got to play it with some friends the other day, and I taught it yesterday at Geekway to some complete strangers who were just playing it there because we gave Geekway some advanced copies of the game so people could try it out at Geekway to the West. So yeah, I'm so excited for you to get this game, and you can get it from our web store right now. I'll talk a little bit more about that as well as the other news in our newsletter. And if you haven't gotten our newsletter yet, I have a link in the description here, and you should be able to also click through that. Either click through that link, or if you're a subscriber, you should see it in your inbox right now. Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. There's a lot going on this morning. Pre-order mornings are always a little hectic, yeah, so I'm just kind of gathering myself to talk about what I'm going to talk about today. So yeah, Rolling Realms is the big thing today. And thank you all. I see people in the comments saying that they have pre-ordered it. That is awesome to hear. Thank you so much for pre-ordering Rolling Realms. And also, I mentioned in the newsletter, we have a bunch of stuff that came back in stock today. So we've been waiting on a big restock that we started many, many months ago, and it's finally arrived. And it includes Wingspan, the Wingspan Neoprene Playmat, Wingspan European, Wingspan Oceania, The Rise of Fenris, the Scythe Metal Mechs that have been out of stock for a while now, Scythe Legendary Boxes, and Tuscany are all back in stock on our web store. And so you can order Rolling Realms with any of those things, or if you don't want some of those things or don't want Rolling Realms, you can just order exactly what you want on our web store, and you should get a shipping notice quite soon. Lionel asked, Voidfall or Fractal? They both look really cool. I haven't backed either one yet, but they look like really, really nicely designed games. Justin chimed in last week to ask what type of food he should try in Richmond, Virginia, where I grew up. And he says he got to try the Gelati Celeste ice cream and said it was very good. And yeah, I'm so glad you got to try that, Justin. And did you try anything else in Richmond that you're excited to share with other people? See Darren and Tim joining us from the UK. Another Tim who's going to be at Geekway today. Pre-ordered Rolling Realms. Thank you, Tim, for doing that. Yeah, so Geekway to the West, I keep mentioning the same name. It is a convention here in St. Louis that's happening right now where you just come and play a bunch of games for a couple days. I attended yesterday, and my, I guess, strategy at Geekway is that I just wander around and look for people to play games with. I have certain games that I'm hoping to play for the first time there, but that doesn't always happen. Yesterday, I played. What did I play? I played a bunch of games yesterday. I taught Rolling Realms and I taught Dice Miner, games that I already know very well. I also played the new version of The Crew. I think it's like Deep Sea something, or underwater version of The Crew, which is really, really cool. I played Holy, which is a 3D game, a 3D abstract game. I played Masters of the Renaissance, which I knew nothing about, but it was very similar to Magnifico. I'm forgetting the exact name. It's like a card version of a game that already exists, but it was a really good implementation. One of these games where you're gathering resources and turning them into something else, and it has a nice little abstract puzzle using marbles. I also played Genotype, and great worker placement game, heavily based in science. Another St. Louis company, Genius Games, makes Genotype. And also over the weekend, I learned Cthulhu Death May Die and played that, and played the new Fantastic Factories expansion. So a lot of new games, and I'll be going back to Geekway today, ideally, if today's pre-order isn't too hectic. I'll be dropping by there later this afternoon. Zach says, has everything been running smoothly with everything coming back in stock along with the pre-order? As far as I know, Zach, I'm live right now, so I'm not really looking at my email, but let's see if there's any... yeah, I'll try not to get distracted by emails while I am doing this. But yeah, so far so good as far as I can tell. Thank you for asking about that. Looks like everything is clear. Most of the links are working. I guess one thing to check, if you all don't mind, I heard from one person, which makes me think it's probably okay. We have our annual charity auction today, and one person mentioned that the link in our newsletter wasn't forwarding correctly. So if any of you have gotten the newsletter and have clicked through, let me to that charity auction. Let me know if that link is working. Otherwise, I can send out a quick reminder update to people about that. But yeah, let me talk about that for a second, because today is our annual charity auction. The idea of our charity auction is that we try to bring attention to some of my favorite content creators among board game media, bloggers, podcasters, YouTube channels, and channels that I haven't featured before. Generally, I feature smaller channels and bloggers and podcasters on this because I want to feature them. I want to introduce them to new people. And they also just happen to be content that I like, so I like featuring them. And each of them got to choose a different charity that they want to support. And so the winning bid for each auction is identical. I'll tell you what to the auctions in a second, but the winner of each auction will pay a certain amount of money, and we will double that money and donate the whole sum to that charity that the blogger selected. So the things that you can win this year from the charity auction, I do see some bids on here already. This is on Board Game Geek, is where you can place the auction bids. They'll receive an individually numbered copy of the collector's edition of Red Rising. So this is, and the numbers are 1 through 12. So they're the first 12 copies printed. We set them aside last year for this charity auction. Same thing with Rolling Realms. My box actually says 1, but this isn't the real number 1. This is kind of the advanced copy that I got. But the real number 1 copy and 1 through 12 copies of Rolling Realms, signed by me. Red Rising is also signed. Between Two Castles, Secrets and Soirees, one of our other 2021 products, is there. You get free shipping, and kind of the big thing that I threw in there is the new Tapestry expansion. So an expansion that I have not even talked about, I have not announced, no one knows the name of it, or what's in this expansion. That is in the charity auction. So if you are really interested in that expansion and getting it well before anybody else, and hopefully probably keeping it a secret for a little while until I officially announce it, which hopefully will be in November anyway, you can win that on today's charity auction. This is the second Tapestry expansion that I have not revealed anything about. I thought that was a fun thing to add in there. Dusty says, I saw that you backed Mythwind. Was it about the co-op game with no win conditions that interested you? I thought that was a very interesting, a game about the journey. That is a big part of it, yeah, about why I backed Mythwind. I'm fascinated by cooperative games where you are there for the journey, for the experience, rather than necessarily for a win or lose condition. It's kind of, I like a lot of different cooperative games, but I am more and more intrigued by this style of cooperative game where you were just working together for a while, doing some things that feel good to you, kind of similar to the Earthborn Rangers game that was on Kickstarter recently. There are things that you can do that feel good to you, but you're kind of defining what is important to you and what feels good to you to accomplish in that game. And so I saw that same thing in Mythwind, and that really intrigued me. Cameron says that his 2-year-old loves the chunky Rolling Realms dice. I'll pull those out and show them here while Cameron mentions them. Yeah, so we put some big chunky dice in Rolling Realms. Here are the Rolling Realms dice right here. Yeah. Okay, Edgar clarified. Lorenzo Il Magnifico. I thought I had the Magnifico word right, but I was forgetting the rest. So I played the card version of it called Masters of the Renaissance. Eric says, what did I think of Cthulhu Death May Die? I really liked a couple of the mechanisms I thought were really, really great. I really liked the system. So we're talking about cooperative games here. Oftentimes in cooperative games, the punishing types of cooperative games, you tend to get weaker as the game goes on. Where your character gets weaker, or all players get weaker. But in Cthulhu Death May Die, you get stronger. You get, as you get more madness, which actually pushes you towards losing, you are getting stronger through that madness. You're also leveling up these abilities on your character card, which I thought was really cool. I really like that. I also liked the specific madness, asymmetric madness abilities that each player gets. It just adds some memorable moments to the game when you have this one specific madness card that triggers at different times. And I really like that they aren't ongoing. They trigger at very specific times in the game. So you don't have to remember something bad in the game that happens. Instead, the game is reminding you, hey, when this happens, this weird thing, not always necessarily bad, but usually not so good, this one thing happens, this madness thing happens. I thought that was a really clever way to have a trigger that you don't need to remember on an ongoing basis. Dusty said, did you see that Dice Throne Marvel has been announced? I know you like Dice Throne and Marvel too. This for me is going to be a no-brainer day one pledge. I had heard about that, and yeah, that sounds incredible. I do love Dice Throne. I love Marvel, and maybe Megan will give it another try now that it's Marvel themed. Yeah, Dice Throne. I'm really excited about that, and it seems to be a perfect fit for Dice Throne to go into the Marvel world. Sherry says that she's so excited about Rolling Realms. Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, so for anyone just joining us now, the pre-order for Rolling Realms is live on our web store right now. Edgar says, when will you be talking about the next Tapestry expansion? I plan to start talking about it in early November. However, if freight shipping gets weird, and it is fairly likely to get weird given that it's holiday season right now, then I will hold off on doing that for another month. So it kind of depends on freight shipping, but hopefully, probably in early November. Chad says, did the fine people at Automa find it difficult to make a solo version of Rolling Realms? It would be interesting to hear from them on their process. Yeah, Chad, I'd recommend checking out the design diary because Morton wrote either one or two design diary posts. They're on our website under Rolling Realms about his experience designing the Automa for Rolling Realms because he did try some things that did or didn't work, and he talks about that in the design diary. He said it was fairly difficult because it is by design a no player interaction game. You really do not have to pay attention to other players at all. It is designed to be infinitely scaling and remotely playable. So gave Morton an interesting challenge, and Morton and his other team members an interesting challenge at Automa Factory. Thank you, Dusty, for confirming that that the charity auction link works. Ivan has some sad news about a board game cafe closing in his area. Yeah, I can see this being a tough time for board game cafes, for board game bars, for bars in general, because it is a tough time to get together indoors with people without masks. It's hard to, I guess you can get together and play board games with masks. That is no problem. But to also have that food and eat and drink experience, the masks make it difficult while also being necessary. For example, at Geekway is a fully vaccinated convention and also fully masked. And I like that. I mean, especially with the Delta variant, I felt very safe yesterday, even though I was around 1,000 other people at Geekway. And most people were doing a great job of wearing their masks fully over their nose and their mouth and only taking it off for brief moments to eat or drink. But you still have to take it off to eat or drink. I mean, I was there for, 6-7 hours yesterday. I had to take that mask off for a few seconds to have a sip of water. So I could see that being a huge trouble for a business that's built around the idea of people coming there and eating and drinking. Justin, the person who visited Richmond recently, says that he really enjoyed ZZQ, the best barbecue he's ever had. He also says, what is the most difficult part of these types of days where a new product is going to pre-order? I can hear the energy in your voice today so much more than usual. It's just a lot of things. Like I have this long checklist leading up to the pre-order, and it's usually, I do a few things the day before the pre-order, a few things a week before the pre-order. But on pre-order day, there's a lot of things that need to happen within right around the same amount of time. Like I kind of prepare all these links and then they need to go live at the same time. When we have reprints like today, we need that reprint inventory to get the new inventory to go live at the same time. So it's a lot of pressure for a lot of things to happen all at once. And then after that, we get to see if like we test the links and things like that, but we get to see if they actually go right. Yeah, so we it's a lot of pressure to get all these things going all at once, and then we find out if all that stuff actually worked, and then we kind of scramble to make sure it works. So far, just glancing at my email, it looks like most things are working correctly, and Joe is also checking emails from customers to see if everything is going right from the customer end. But overall, we're just trying to create a good experience for you, the people who are going to our web store and experiencing all this at the same time, and it comes down to some very precise moments for it all to come together. Let's see. Chris says, "How are the cats? How's my dad? And favorite horror movie?" My cats are doing well. You can see Biddy right behind me here. Actually, Walter is. You can't really see him, but Walter is on the chair behind Biddy right now. They are doing well. They're a little confused by me being out of the office or being out of the home office during Geekway in the afternoon, but they're doing fine. My dad is doing well. He got some fresh air near the Chesapeake Bay this past weekend. And my favorite horror movie is probably, I mean, there are a few that I like, but I would say, what is it? The Cabin in the Woods, I would say, is one of my favorites. It's definitely not a traditional horror movie, but I like that they kind of flip the genre on its head they explore the genre in a different way. I'm not a big horror movie fan in general. I don't like being scared. That doesn't fun for me, but I do like good cinema. I like interesting characters. I like fun, memorable moments in movies. And the Cabin in the Woods does all that for me. Nathan says, he says he loves Dice Throne, so he's likely to get the Marvel themed Dice Throne. Steve says, any word on when this year's champion t-shirts are shipping out? Yeah, shipping, it's still on track for what we said in the original e-newsletter. We said early November. We're still definitely on track for early November. Yeah. Okay, a few people are linking to the solo mode design diary post about Automa in Rolling Realms. This is a 1 to 6 player game out of the box. But the game is kind of flexible in a few different ways. One, if you buy more than one copy, you can play with really any size group. You could play up to, it really is infinite. It scales infinitely. As long as you can see the dice, you know the numbers on the dice, any number of people can play. It also plays remotely. So if you want to play Rolling Realms with a friend who's halfway around across the country or halfway around the world, you can do that. You can buy a copy. You could each buy a copy, or only you could buy a copy, and you can mail them the 13 cards from the game that they need to have, and then you can play remotely with them. That's all they need. Also, like I did during the playtesting phase for this game, I will be hosting live play-alongs of Rolling Realms in the coming weeks. I think I'll wait a few days, probably until next week, until people start to get their copies, and then I'll start to do it. And I will post them. I think I'll most likely do most of them in the Rolling Realms Facebook group. So go there if you want to follow along. I might do some on the Stonemeyer Games Facebook page, but all those videos will end up on our YouTube channel. So even if you're not available live, you can play against me later on the live, or the saved YouTube version of that video. So, and I might even do one. Those Facebook videos end up being fairly low res when I download them and then re-upload them to YouTube. So I might do one video where it's just me playing by myself in kind of speed mode. And so you have one game that's just in high res that you can play along with. We'll see about that. The resolution doesn't really matter all that much though, because you're just looking at dice for the most part. Carlos says, it's very nice to know that a living game with new realms is coming out as new games are published. Yeah, so that's one of the core elements of Rolling Realms. So currently today on the pre-order, all you can get is the core game. But over the next year, we're going to release promo packs. Here's one example of one. So this is a Rolling Realms promo pack for Rolling Realms. So the realm is Rolling Realms itself. It includes a new realm based on Rolling Realms, the game. And we will have that on our web store in probably a few months. We haven't completely decided how we'll end up distributing them. For the most part, if you want those promo packs, you'll go to our web store, you'll buy them. The shipping won't be very expensive, or you can combine them with another product. We might at times do special promotions with retailers. Well, like if a retailer hosts a Rolling Realms teach and play or a tournament or something like that, we might give them promos to give out. We might give them out at conventions, things like that. And we might even end up with some non-Stonemeyer games included in the Rolling Realms world. We'll see about that. Carlos says, do you think that an expansion might have a new mechanism that might warrant an alternative realm for a game? You know, that's a good question. I don't think we'll do expansions for Rolling Realms. I think the life of the game will be through the promo realms themselves. Yeah, that's the plan right now. Tim says, I don't know if the library at Geekway has Aquatica. I checked yesterday and they don't have it. He says it had Obsession when it was last updated. I actually looked for Obsession yesterday and I couldn't find that in the library either. Yeah, I was hoping for those to be in the library. Geekway doesn't apparently have the games that were on my list to play at Geekway in their library, but they still have plenty of other interesting games at Geekway that I'm happy to try. Vito asked if I could spoil something about the Viticulture expansion. I'm sorry, Vito, I appreciate you asking, but I know I don't do spoilers on these live casts. When I'm ready to announce something, I will do that, but not today. I'm glad you love Viticulture, and I look forward to talking about it more next year. Vivir says, how does a game move from one publisher to another? Are there contracts for certain timeframes? Yeah, usually well, I actually don't know how other publishers work, but I think one way to do it, and this is how we do it, is we say in our contract, if a certain amount of time has passed and we haven't printed a certain number of copies of the game or the product, then we lose our rights to make that product. Basically, that is to protect the designer from having a publisher just sit on a game and not actually make more copies of it for a long time, even though the game potentially has life outside of that publisher. So I think that's probably how other publishers do it as well. I try to make our contracts so they both protect Stonemeyer Games and also protect the designer in that way. Sam says, could we ever see a mystery style game from Stonemeyer Games? He says, from a board game inspiration style, I'm thinking escape room games or video games inspired like Outer Wilds. You know, we don't have anything like that exactly in the works, although in one game that I'm working on, there are mysteries within the game. I wouldn't call it a mystery game, but there are things for you to figure out and solve as you explore the game. So, I probably not in the traditional sense that you're thinking of, but I do have a game that has that essence to it. Yeah. David says, do you use the same price calculation on a cheaper game like Rolling Realms? I imagine the margins on games like Scythe are better than Rolling Realms. Does that change how you think about the complexity of games you release? So that's an interesting question, David. The margins are better. That is true, but the margin is kind of defined by the manufacturing cost. Either way. So, for example, if we make a copy of Scythe and we sell that copy of Scythe to a distributor, the money that we get from the distributor is pretty much enough to make a new copy of Scythe, which is what we often do. We often use that money to make a new copy of Scythe. The same goes for Rolling Realms. It doesn't cost us much to make, but this is a $20 game, and so our margins are much smaller. But those margins also correlate to how much it costs to reprint the game. So hopefully we'll end up reprinting Rolling Realms. Hopefully it'll be a success. And yeah, for every copy of Rolling Realms that we sell to a distributor, we're basically earning back enough money to make another copy of Rolling Realms in the future. Our margins are a little better on our web store, but they're actually a lot tighter on a game like Rolling Realms opposed to a game like Scythe, where the margins are a lot better on our web store. Hence why I like to discount it from time to time. Yeah. Olivia says, I haven't had the chance to look into it yet. What does the upcoming charity auction benefit? Yeah, so the charity auction is live right now. This is one of the big things in our e-newsletter. And it benefits charities and nonprofits selected by each of the 12 content creators who are participating in this year's auction. So I'll name a few of them. So Thinker Themer is here, and they are benefiting the Victorian Pride Centre in Australia. What Board Game is benefiting Dementia UK. Covray is benefiting Bent Arrow. Gnarly Carly Gaming is benefiting So Others May Eat. And I'll name one more. Paradise Games is benefiting the Coalition for the Homeless. So they each selected their charity of choice in the auction. If someone can post that link, the charity auction link in the comments below, that would be awesome. If I do it, I'll lose my current place in the comments. But yeah, charity auction is live right now. You can check it out. And also, I should let you know, there are two reasons to check out the auction, even if you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on the collection of items that I mentioned. So signed Red Rising, signed Rolling Realms, Between Two Castles, and the new Tapestry expansion, or Between Two Castles expansions. If you don't want to buy those things, that's okay. You can go to the auction and you can just press the thumb on any of these content creators that you really like, because that will increase for the charity, for the content creator who gets the most thumbs. We're going to donate $1 per thumb to their charity of choice, and they will get a copy of the new Tapestry expansion. Also, it's just a great place to find out where some of our favorite content creators. These are wonderful board game media content creators, and I highly recommend checking out their content. Also, I don't want to forget Fulfill Right, which is a Kickstarter fulfillment service, a Kickstarter fulfillment company. They have generously offered this year to match the winning bid among all the auctions. So Stonemeyer Games is matching every winning bid, and then the highest winning bid is going to be matched by Fulfill Right up to $2,000. And they will double that charitable contribution to that charity. Also, Fulfill Right is doing a nice thing to anyone who signs up for their service during the charity auction, which will run for 3 days. They will actually just 2 days. It's just a 2-day charity auction. It'll end on Friday. Fulfill Right will give you $200 off the fulfillment of your next Kickstarter campaign. So thank you so much to Fulfill Right for doing that for this year's charity auction. They've done that for several years in a row now, and I really, really appreciate it. Giovanni says that Cabin in the Woods is also one of his favorites. He says, have I seen the movie Cube? I have not seen the movie Cube, no. It looked a little bit too creepy for me, but maybe I'm judging it too much from the trailer. Cameron says, will future promo packs likely release at the same time as new games? It depends. I think sometimes that'll happen, and sometimes it won't. So I don't think we'll say for sure, because sometimes we'll have, I don't know, I think it'll depend on the game and like the other things that go along with that game. I think in general that'll be the aim, but it probably won't always happen. Sometimes it'll be a scheduling thing, but I hope that'll happen for the most part. Yeah. Donna asked for a non-spoiler update as to when the next Wingspan expansion in big box is releasing. Uh, it is a little bit of a spoiler question, but the real answer is I don't know. I am aiming for the middle of 2022. That's what I'm aiming for right now. Yeah, for those two products. Let's see. Michael's looking for the Rolling Rums Twister promo. Hans wants a Tapestry update. So yeah, I'm hoping to be talking about the Tapestry expansion for the first time in early November, but that depends on freight shipping. If freight shipping is really slow, I might delay that by 1 month. And freight shipping is pretty slow right now, but I've already put a little bit of a buffer in there. Chad says, thanks for making Rolling Rums very affordable. Well, yeah, thank you. That was definitely the target. I thought a $20 price point was fair for this game. We've included a lot of the box, I think, for a $20 game. There are a ton of dry erase cards in the game. We have the big chunky dice, and yet I try to keep a pretty small box size here so that it's fairly travel friendly. And even when you travel with it, you might even take it out of the box and just take the cards that you need, the pens that you need, and the dice, and it's a pretty travel friendly game in that way. Giovanni says, with multiple games and expansions in the works, how do you divide your time for the different games when we're working on each of their designs, etc.? Yeah, it's kind of it's one of the reasons why I try to stagger all of our different products, because that way I can work on multiple projects at the same time, but at different stages. So, for example, I have a project right now that's about to enter the proofreading stage. That's great. Whereas I'm working on the design for some other games, and I'm helping to develop some other expansions. So. The term developer means that I am not the lead designer for that product, but I'm helping improve that product along the way. So I guess I just try to stagger different things at any given moment. I don't know. I often sometimes if I have two different things that I could be working on at the very moment, sometimes I look at a little bit of urgency, which one is more urgent, which one is often further along in the process, because that way, if I can get it even a little bit further along, we can actually get it into production. Whereas a game that's in the design process often gets the back burner a little bit unless it's getting close to a blind playtesting stage. And then I really wanted to get into that blind playtesting wave. Yeah, it just depends on any given moment. Sometimes it's also my excitement. I might be more excited about one than the other, and I work on that for that day or for that hour. Yeah. Michael says, as a publisher, is there a current game that if somehow the rights became available, it would be a holy grail for you to bring into the Stonemeyer fold? Perhaps it's a great game that could use a component and production quality makeover. Perhaps it's a game that you just really admire. Games have appeared like that. I think it would take the right exact game to hit that sweet spot. One game that I did look into on a whim was Raw. I really love Raw. I heard that the publisher no longer had the rights to Raw, and so I contacted Reiner Knizia to ask him if the rights were available, and they weren't available. So, and I don't even really think I changed much about Raw. Maybe a little bit of the art or graphic design, but I really liked the Fantasy Flight version of it. I thought they did a great job with it. So there's not a lot that I would really change about it. I see someone asked, how long does the auction run? It runs through 11 a.m. St. Louis time on Friday. Yeah. And Dusty also just posted it. Thank you, Dusty. Chat says, are there certain realms that are easier for new players to start with? Sorry if this has already been covered. I mean, there are a few realms that are slightly harder than other realms. So I would actually say Scythe is a little bit for people to wrap people's minds around. Whereas Wingspan is very simple. So I think Wingspan is pretty simple. I think Between Two Castles is very simple. Some people kind of confuse how the rows work, but each castle is independent. You get a star for each completed row. I think this is a pretty simple one. Charterstone is probably a little bit more on the complex side, so you might avoid that. My Little Scythe is an easier one, so I would say My Little Scythe. So some of them are like slightly easier. Pendulum, somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure exactly where Pendulum falls yet. Viticulture, say probably also medium complexity. The Society, the Red Rising inspired realm, probably medium as well. Let's see if there's any that I'm missing here that I should mention. Between Two Cities is very easy to understand, and Euphoria is probably more on the middle or complex side. But really, complex with regards to rolling realms is not very complex. Each realm is fairly easy to understand, and the rules text is right on the card itself. So uh, it's once you know how the realms work once, you can just refresh yourself by actually just reading the realm and get right back into the game, and the games can kind of fly by once you get to that point. Xavier says, "Are you all going to continue adding games to Steam, iOS, etc.? Seems like Rolling Realms would have been an awesome game to have on my phone." Yeah, I would love for all of our games to have digital implementations, both full AI versions, Tabletopia, and Tabletop Simulator, and Board Game Arena. Part of that is out of our hands because we are not digital developers. We outsource to digital developers, and really, outsourcing isn't the right word. We sell the digital rights to digital developers, and they work on the games. So uh, I'm hoping that all of our games will get there, but it is dependent partially on there being interest from digital developers to do that. Uh, yeah, I think Rolling Realms would work great like on Board Game Arena or on your phone. Yeah, you're right. It would work great on your phone, and I hope it gets there. Michael jokes that the Charterstone realm should come with a permanent marker since it is a legacy game. Yeah, not the case in Rolling Realms. That could be a stopping point for the game. You would no longer be able to use that card. But I like the spirit of that, Michael. Aurelian, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, says, "I'm seeing a lot of very good feedback on Tapestry recently in France, much more than in the first months after the launch date. I'm glad it does because it's one of my all-time favorites." Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm so glad when people discover our older games. Tapestry isn't even that old. It's from 2019. Um, they say, "Do you think there's a similar tendency in the US?" I certainly hope so. Maybe the second expansion will remind people of what the game is. I'm still really happy with how the game turned out. I know, and I approached it from the very beginning as a game that probably would discover that some of the asymmetry in the game needed to be adjusted, and we have a formula or we have a method in place of doing that. And I think some people embraced that, and some people kind of rejected the idea of the game just because we did that. So uh, I still am really excited about Tapestry, and I'm really excited about the second expansion, and I hope in the U.S. and other places, not just France, people continue to give it a chance. It's really, again, that's very dear to me. It is the civilization game that I've always wanted to exist because you get to create your own civilization without being tied to real world history at all, while things still kind of make sense in terms of history. Although even then, you're creating essentially alternate histories, um, and I love that. That's the kind of civ game that I've always wanted. Xavier also says, "How long did it take for Wingspan or Scythe to become digital?" Uh, Scythe, I think, took around 2 to 3 years for the Knights of Unity to make it go live. And Monster Couch worked pretty fast, actually, on Wingspan. And I think they got it live after 15 months of starting to work on the digital version of the game. They worked pretty quickly. That is fast, I think, for a digital developer for a game of the scope of Wingspan. But typically, I found it takes them around 2 years. Currently, Tim here, I think, is watching today. Tim Meyer is working on the digital version of Tapestry. And Tim's been working on it, Tim, what would you say, around 15 to 18 months at this point? Yeah. Dexter says he's excited about the Tapestry expansion. He says that and Scythe are in his top 5 favorites still. That's awesome, Dexter. Thank you. Chrissy says, "Would it be difficult to open a store in European countries like you did in Canada?" Chrissy, we are actually in the process of doing that. So we now have web stores, storefronts. We have a worldwide storefront. We have one for Australia and New Zealand, and we have one for Canada. And the next one that we'll be doing, probably be the most difficult one that we do, and that's why we saved it for last, will be Europe. So we'll have a web store just for European countries. It'll have all the correct taxes there and whatnot. And that's something that reminded me here of something. But yeah, that is coming in a few months. I think we'll have that open and running. Garden says, "When it comes to designing a new game, where do I turn to for inspiration?" Uh, I get a lot of inspiration from other games that I'm playing, whether they're video games or tabletop games. I also get a lot of inspiration from media that I consume, whether it's like other game reviews or just non-game media, like a book that I'm reading, a movie that I'm watching, things like that, TV show that I'm watching. I'm watching Squid Game right now. I don't think that'll inspire any game from Stonemeyer Games, but it does have some interesting like little mini games in it in the Squid Game Netflix show. So yeah, that's usually where I start. I get a little bit inspiration from other games or works of fiction. Chad says, here in Michigan, the trees are changing to their fall colors. Does Missouri get fall colors? It's a shame if no. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we get all the seasons in Missouri. Michael says that Tapestry grew on him over various plays in the expansion stuff. So yeah, maybe I think that's. I'm glad to hear that for Tapestry and for other games that even after initial impressions, people might return to it and give it another chance. I've heard that happening with Viticulture sometimes. I think a lot of people enjoy the base game of Viticulture, but I think even more people go ecstatic over the Tuscany expansion when they incorporate that into Viticulture. So I'm glad that it's still why I recommend if you're introducing Viticulture to a new player or you're playing for the first time, just play with the base game because then you get the joy of someday also adding Tuscany to it and enhancing the experience and adding to the experience. Whereas if you start out with Tuscany out of the gate, you don't get that additional leveling up feel later on. Carlos says, do you plan to do a playthrough of Rolling Realms? Sorry, the comment skipped it forward a little bit. With content creators now that the boxed version is shipping soon. I don't know if I'll do live playthroughs with other content creators, but I will do my own playthroughs, and other content creators are welcome to play along either live or on their own channels. But it creates a lot of scheduling hassle to try to line up schedules with other creators. Although I did break that rule a little bit. I rarely do this, but my Sunday sit-down long-form YouTube video coming up this week is a special one because it's a chat about combat mechanisms in games with developer and designer Ira Fay, who recently worked on Iridia with Cody Miller. So we had a great chat, and I will post that on my YouTube channel this week. It's the first interview thing that I've done for the YouTube channel yet. What else did I post recently? My blog entries this past Monday was about social proof. And then last Thursday, I talked about the current state of game conventions. And then my video this past weekend, what was my video? I did videos about Rolling Realms. Oh yeah, it was about Rolling Realms. Oh yeah, it was another new type of video that I'm doing. I got a lot of feedback recently about videos, so I'm trying some new things. Where I went through my closet, my cabinet of secrets back there, and I pulled out all the sample components that I had acquired for Rolling Realms during the design and development and production process. And I just opened up this box of stuff and talked about it on camera. So feel free to check out that video if you want to see a huge sneak peek behind the scenes of the decisions we made in regards to components and some mechanisms during the design process for Rolling Realms. I'll be doing that for a few other games, but also my cabinet of secrets, I've moved over the last couple of years. I have thrown away a lot of stuff or recycled a lot of stuff. And so I don't have those components for a lot of our older games, but I will be doing that going forward. I'll be saving those sample components and talking about them in videos for each upcoming product. Michael says that he's enjoying the Australia-specific web store. Chocolate says, Chad says, what's my chocolate of the day today? So far, it's just some coffee. I made Rice Krispie treats with chocolate and peanut butter chips in it. So that'll be my chocolate treat today at lunchtime. Xavier says, have you come up with a neat idea to implement in a board game, but it is simply too confusing or difficult or simply not worth it for the player game to implement? Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say 90% of my ideas start off in my head at least as neat ideas, and once I actually test them with players, they are confusing. They're not intuitive. They don't play out the way I thought it would. So yeah, I would say almost the vast majority of my ideas that I think are neat and really are conceptually interesting don't play out that way on the table, and I have to scrap them. That happens all the time, all the time. Taylor also says that he loves Tapestry. Thanks, Taylor. A little bit more time to the expansion, but we're almost there for the second expansion. Oh, Tim chimed in about the time. He says, in regards to time, 15 months ago, we started developing the Tapestry digital prototype. And at the end of October last year, so slightly less than 12 months ago, we started officially working on the proper non-prototype version. Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tim. Dave from Ohio is excited to see the Wingspan expansion moving forward. Yeah, you can see that on the progress chart on our e-newsletter. You can see how our other products are moving along. And while I say that, I'm scrolling through here, I should mention, so the main thing today was the Rolling Realms pre-order. That's in the e-newsletter. I also mentioned the charity auction, which is live right now. You can see the information about that in the e-newsletter. Also, the Top Shelf Kickstarter is live right now. It went live a couple days ago. So they are bringing back the concept that we started years ago of a treasure chest full of realistic resource tokens. They've taken that and they've done amazing things with it. And they have a total of 4 new 4 boxes. 2 of them are completely new that are on Kickstarter right now. So if you like fancy bits in your games, and that can apply to a lot of different games, feel free to check out the Top Shelf Gamer Kickstarter that's happening right now. Then I have the normal project progress sheet here. And other things that I've been playing. Oh yeah, I had a game day this past weekend where I played Cora and Furnace for the first time, both of which I really enjoyed. I would say Cora is probably going to be on my top 10 list of the year. I really, really enjoyed all the different tracks in the game Cora. I think that's a fairly recent game. I was excited to play that. Trying to see if there's anything else on my list that I played very recently. But yeah, I've actually played a lot of games over the last week. Oh, and I played the Quicks at game night last night. We played another game too, but I can't remember what game it was. And I had game days and sessions this past weekend, last Thursday, and then I'm at Geekway this week, at least in the afternoons of this week, playing a lot of games. So it's been fun to get to scratch that gaming itch. Kevin says, is Viticulture Essentials a version that includes Tuscany, or do I still need Tuscany? So yeah, all viticulture products that we make are completely, I don't want to say independent, but they have no overlap between them. Viticulture Essential is the core game. Tuscany is an expansion. That there's no overlap between the two. There are also some smaller expansions like More Visitors and Visit from the Rhine Valley. Those cards are not in Essentials or anything else. The reason we call it Viticulture Essential is that before it was a first edition and a second edition, and then we kind of figured out this is what Viticulture really should be, and that is the Viticulture Essentials edition. Sorry for any confusion there. But yeah, I would start by just buying Viticulture, and then if you enjoy the game, you can expand it with Tuscany or the small box expansions like More Visitors and Visit from the Rhine Valley. Well, George says he broke 600 victory points at Tapestry the other day. That's pretty incredible, George. I did not know that was even possible. Nathan says, have you ever played pickleball? If not, you should check it out. Yeah, I have played pickleball. I wouldn't say a lot, but I have played pickleball a few times. I played in Kansas City a few times. It's great. It's a great little game. I would say my preference if I'm going to play an outdoor game is still going to be disc golf right now. And if I'm going to play an indoor game, it's probably going to be indoor rock climbing. But if someone hands me a pickleball racket and wants me to play, I'm happy to play pickleball. I played a lot of tennis when I was a kid too. Let's see. Michael says it should be Tuscany Essential Edition, and you're right. Yeah, it is actually called Tuscany Essential Edition. Is the current version of Tuscany. There was an earlier version of Tuscany, a Kickstarter version, a big box version that we only made once because it was actually more expensive than the core game, and we realized it's not sustainable for us to have an expansion that costs more than the core game itself. Carlos pointed out, yeah, that's right. I did have some interviews years ago, but it's been a long, long time since I did an interview on my YouTube channel. He pointed out that I interviewed Matt Leacock about legacy games. And you're right, great memory there, Carlos, but it's been a long time since I've done that. Dusty is talking about the component video I did about Rolling Realms this past weekend. He says, thank you for doing the component videos. It was so cool to watch the Rolling Realms video and hear about the progress and what factors contributed to component changes. He says that's one of the most hidden, fascinating parts of game manufacturing for me. Awesome, yeah. Thank you for that feedback, and it was fun to peel back the curtain and show people some of the samples that I got along the way and how they contributed to the design and development of Rolling Realms. I have one about Red Rising coming out, and I actually had a bunch of components left from My Little Scythe and the expansion, so I'll do one for My Little Scythe as well. Alex says, are you capped out on membership in your ambassador program? No, we're not. There's not a hard max. There is a survey that you have to fill out to kind of apply to the program, but I review it once a month. I send out the ambassador email usually on the 15th of every month, and so that's when I review the latest applications. And so if you're interested in being an ambassador, which is essentially just a volunteer for Stonemeyer Games, feel free to fill out the application on our website. Yeah, thanks for your interest in that. That's different than our champion program. Our champion program are people who financially support the blog and YouTube channel that I make. And as a benefit, they get 20 to 25% off on everything they buy on our web store, including shipping. And they get priority shipping on all pre-orders. So that's why I mentioned earlier, if you pre-order Rolling Realms, all champions will get their shipping notifications next week. And then after that, the non-champions will get their shipping notifications. Kevin says, any updates on the Wingspan big box? I posted kind of very small photo updates on the website. So if you go check out the Wingspan nesting box page of our website, you'll see, I think the most recent one was the egg and food trays. I've made some small modifications to those. There's now going to be 3 of them in the box, and they're clear so that you can definitely see which food tokens are in those containers at any angles. And I now have photos of those new clear trays with both custom tokens, custom wooden food tokens, and normal cardboard food tokens in case you wanted to see what that looks like. Xavier says, how do we get that? Oh, Michael already helped out, showing Stonemeyer friend how to get the e-newsletter. And there's also a link in the description of this video itself. Dusty says, there are so many artistic endeavors where some of the greats say anyone can do this. Music, art, etc. Do you believe that anyone could design a game? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if it's a very, very simple game. In fact, I would guess that most people have actually designed a game at some point, even if it's just like a little playground game. Like, hey, you know, we have 3 sticks to play with right now. Let's play something with these 3 sticks. Yeah, I would wager that not only could anyone design a game, but I would wager that most people have actually designed a game at some point. I know that usually that may sound disrespectful to the game designers. I hope it doesn't come across that way, because designing like a complex game does take quite a bit of time and effort. It's a lot more than just having an idea and playing around with it for a few minutes, but that is still a game. That's still a game that you're playing with someone. Zhao says, I saw your production chart in the e-newsletter. I saw 6 unnamed new games. How many new games do you expect to publish next year? Between 1 or 2. We always aim for 1 or 2, and that's my honest answer for next year. I know there's going to be 1, and there's another one that I hope will be ready next year. Did I put it in there? I put it in there as Q4 2022, and we'll see if that actually happens. The game is still in the playtesting stage, and still evolving, really. Oh, some people don't know what pickleball is. I should explain that. It's a little bit like tennis, but it's a smaller wooden racket, and you play on a smaller court. And there's some particular rules to it, but in general, it's kind of tennis with, and usually you play, at least I played doubles. You can play singles, but I usually play pickleball in doubles format. And Christy also explained it. A mix of tennis, badminton, and table tennis. Yeah, table tennis is a good explanation for it, too. I've actually reached the end of the question. So let me back up and go through our e-newsletter. So in the e-newsletter, I talk about how the Rolling Realms pre-order is live, and that we also have reprints back in stock of Wingspan, the Wingspan Neoprene Playmat, Wingspan European, Wingspan Oceania, the Scythe Legendary Box, Scythe Rise of Fenris, Scythe Metal Mechs. It's been a while since we had those back in stock, and Tuscany are back in stock on our web store. Those are all back in stock at our fulfillment centers, at least I think most fulfillment centers. Canada might be running a little slow right now, not the fulfillment center itself, but actually the getting some products to that fulfillment center. But I could be wrong about that. Joe is going to check on that and make sure the inventory is correct on that store. And we also have our charity auction, which is live right now. The idea behind the charity auction is that I selected 12 different board game content creators that I love, that I haven't featured before, usually smaller creators. And I asked them to select a charity of their choice. They didn't have to do anything else, just select a charity of their choice. And I associated an auction entry with each of these content creators and their charity of choice, so that the final bid for each of the auctions, so if someone bids $300 on the Thinker Themer auction, we will double that. Stonemeyer Games will double that $300 and end up donating a total of $600 to the Victorian Pride Center, which was the Thinker Themers, Amy and Maggie's charity of choice. But also, if you aren't interested in bidding, and what you're bidding on is a signed copy of Red Rising, a signed copy of Rolling Realms, a signed copy of the new Tapestry expansion, and Between Two Castles, Secrets and Soirees, and free shipping anywhere in the world. And those individually numbered copies, those signed copies, are also 1 through 12. They are the first copies to be printed from each of those print runs. Even if you're not interested in bidding on those things, you can still participate in the auction by pressing the green thumb button on any of the content creators that you really love. It'll benefit them and add more to the charitable gift for the one person or for the charity that has the most thumbs. And you can hopefully discover some new content creators this way. These are awesome channels and podcasters and blogs to follow, and I highly recommend them. Let's see, I missed a few questions here while I was recapping. Pete says, speaking of the Squid Game inspiring a Stonemeyer game, why not a game with some mini games included, something like Merchant's Cove? Well, Pete, I'm happy to say that Rolling Realms is a game of mini games. It's a game of 11 different mini games, so we actually do have that right now in our Stonemeyer Games lineup. So check out Rolling Realms if you're interested in some mini games. Let's see. Chad says he would be a good playtester. So you're welcome to sign up as an ambassador and as a playtester, Chad, if you'd like. Although I have a good list of playtesters right now, so I'm not necessarily looking for more playtesters at this time, but I do add to that list from time to time. There's actually another, you have to sign up as an ambassador, apply to be an ambassador, and then also apply as a playtester because I found there's specific traits that make people really good at being a playtester or not quite as good at it. George says, do I miss visiting Japan sometimes? Yeah, I studied abroad in Japan 3 times, twice in high school during the summer and once in my junior year of college, and I do miss it. It's been a long time since I've been there, and I have a very strong connection to my friends in Japan, the Japanese culture in general, and Kyoto in particular. I have so many fond memories there, so I really do miss it, and I hope to go back. But at the same time, there are many places in the world that I haven't visited yet that I really want to. So I'm kind of waiting a little bit before going back to Japan until I can go to some other places. Grant says, I pre-ordered Rolling Realms, and when I logged in, it made sure I wasn't a robot. It wanted me to choose all the taxis. There were 2 taxis and an orange Ford Mustang. It made me choose the Mustang to prove I'm not a robot. Does that mean I'm a robot? It does. It does mean that you're a robot. Yeah, we try to help our customers out in a variety of ways, and one of the ways is determining whether or not you are a human or a robot. And Grant, I'm glad we were able to help out with that today. Yeah, congratulations. Dusty has a comment here about one of the codename games that we're working on and whether or not it should include Chad as a playtester. We'll see. We'll see. That game is still in flux. It's still changing quite a bit. Dusty asked, have I named my car? I got a new car earlier this year, and he asked if I've named it, and I have not. I have not named it yet. No. I think I'll probably stay away from naming mechanical things because my juvenile sense of humor has kind of gotten in the way of that in the past, and I don't ever want to cause harm to someone, even by accident, by naming something in a weird way. In fact, I've even heard with the name Biddy. The name Biddy, his actual name is Baby Bok Choy. His real name is not Biddy, but that name evolved over time. And it became a cute nickname. And at the time, I wasn't aware that Biddy is a slightly derogatory name for an old lady, I think, which is absolutely not my intention at all. But Biddy is very much his name. It's been his name for 14 years. So I'm not going to change his name at this point, unless it was like truly terrible. But yeah, I kind of have realized that the naming of things is important, and I have to be careful about that. So no, long story short, I'm not gonna. I don't have any plans to name the Tesla. It'll just be my Tesla. Jason says that he lived in Japan in 96 and 97 in Nagano before the Olympics. Nagano. That's awesome, Jason. That's really cool. I lived in Japan in 2001 and 2002, right before the World Cup was there. And I had the opportunity to stay there that summer for the World Cup. And for some reason, I mean, one of my greatest regrets in life, I don't have many, but one of my greatest regrets was not not staying that summer in Japan. I went back home and worked. I thought I needed to earn some money for college, which I did. I had a responsibility to earn monies to pay my way through college, or pay part of my way through college. Definitely not the whole way. But I wish I had stayed in Japan that summer and been there for the World Cup. It would have been really, really incredible. Let's see. Few kind comments here at the end about Cameron saying, I hope you have a good Rolling Realms launch. Cameron is one of the people who are participating in the charity auction as a content creator. Thank you, Cameron, for doing that. Uh, Dusty pointed out that Biddy also just means small. It's a terrific name. Um, I'm going to make a little note here. And Joe says he was able to playtest a game for a local game designer here in the Pittsburgh area, and it was great to help and see that portion of the game design process. That's really cool. Christy says, any chance I can see the map behind you? I'm on a webcam now. I can't really zoom in on it, but it is an old map of Wales. I made a trip to Wales around 15 years ago and picked up that map while I was there. And Dusty says, okay. Yeah, Dusty, we'll see at some point if playtesters can reapply. But we don't need that many playtesters. I have a list of around 75 to 100, and I don't even use that full list. I have some that I definitely return to time and time again because they're really good at giving feedback. They're really good So one of the best things you can do if you're a playtester is offer examples. Don't try to offer solutions. Offer examples of what happened, how it made you feel, the circumstances around it, and why it frustrated you or why you really liked this mechanism. I think playtesters often, like the mistake that most playtesters make, and this is part of the survey, is that playtesters have something bad that happens, but they don't explain what happened. They just try to say what they think the solution should be. And they might be right. That might be a great solution. But at its heart, as I'm gathering feedback, I'm really trying to figure out what's going right with the game and what's going wrong. And I'm kind of in charge of figuring out the solutions, or the designer at least, and the developer is in charge of figuring out those solutions. So if you're a playtester or you're interested in being a playtester, that's the number one thing to keep in mind. Share examples of what happened, the circumstances around those examples, how they made you feel, and why they made you feel that way. The examples are far more useful for a designer or developer than your guess at a solution. And if you've done all that, sure, at the very end, you could say, here's a little idea. Here's a little idea that I have. But don't focus on the idea. Focus on the example itself. Yeah. Zhao says, talking about maps, how do I feel about games using real-world maps? Have you wanted to make a game with one? There is certainly a part of me that wants to do that because I played a lot of Risk as a kid, and I loved thinking about that Risk map. I love thinking about how I can clog up these points or kind of turtle back into this area. I loved that. And one of the nice things about real-world maps, like with Pandemic, is if you say, I'm going to China right now, or I'm going to Bulgaria, you have a rough idea, or you know exactly where on the world map where you should go, opposed to a fantasy map where you don't really know where things are going. I've heard this feedback about the World of Warcraft Pandemic recently. If you don't know World of Warcraft, you probably don't know where on the map you need to be looking at any given time. But we do have this level of knowledge of real world maps. So I'm intrigued by it, but I don't think we have any of those in any of my games yet, do we? I'm trying to think if there's any game that ties to a real world map. But yeah, so it is something that intrigues me, but I'm not designing around that right now. Matt has a nice comment about getting some replacement parts, and thank you, Matt. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, we have a great replacement parts team around the world. And Chad says, congrats on the Rolling Realms release. Thank you. And I think that's a good place to end today. We're wrapping up right now. I'm going to put this video on YouTube, so if you have any further questions or comments, feel free to pop over to the YouTube version of it in like 15, 20 minutes, and you'll see it there. And if you haven't pre-ordered Rolling Realms or haven't pre-ordered the stuff that's back in stock, feel free to do that now if you're interested in all this. I'm so excited to be here to share this about Rolling Realms and the charity auction today. Two huge things. And thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great Wednesday, and maybe I'll see you at Geekway. If you're watching this and you're attending Geekway, maybe I'll see you at Geekway this afternoon. All right, take care.